Good afternoon, Suidlanders, and welcome to Suidlanders Week in Review for Friday, the 28th of March, 2025. Either Judith, my Belgian Shepherd, hello, or I must have knocked the camera, but I think that this will do, won't it? It's nice to be here. I haven't written this out as I usually do. I did something stupid. I only have about 10% vision in my right eye, and now I've gone and done something stupid to my poor old left eye. My dad used to warn me of this almost 40 years ago. I used to read obsessively, morning, noon, and night, and he used to tell me, you're going to mess up your eyes reading in dim light, by torch and by candle and what have you. Anyway, I was given a very rare document the other day. Great privilege. You can't, money can't buy access to it, and so I've been reading it obsessively at hours that I shouldn't have been, and I woke up yesterday and I couldn't focus, but it'll be fixed. It's okay. My point being that I'm just going to freestyle this. I've written some notes in big black letters over here. I'll refer to them occasionally, but it's not all written out as it usually is. Let's see if it works. Let's begin with gold and silver. The silver price remains above $30 at $34.43 as we speak. Let me just refresh to be triply certain that that is current. $34.43 at just about 2 o'clock in the afternoon of Friday, the 28th of March. I'm double checking that I'm not making any mistakes here. Yeah, and what is the changes today? 0.33% up over 30 days, 8.92% over 6 months, 9.86% over a year, 37.4%. Over 5 years, 143.73%, and over 20 years, up 393.5%. It is a fallacy that gold and silver are not the best returning investments. They are not the best returning investments if you are Elon Musk's cousin and you were invited to get in on the ground floor, or if you are Mark Zuckerberg's godfather. For the rest of us who depend upon conventional information to invest in anything, we will never see those returns. It is a fallacy that precious metals are not the best. They are, and always have been. As you can tell from the statistics, gold still above $3,000 at $3,074.97. The change today being 0.82%, over 30 days 5.71%, over 6 months 15.74%, a year 36.5%, 5 years 88%, 20 years 614.89%. And at the moment, as has been the case for some months now, you've heard me say this before, I'm not going to tell you anything original or new, all of the best experts in that field are shrieking the same song from the rooftops, namely that gold and silver, for many and various reasons, which we have discussed before, are setting off on a journey to the stars, and we will never see today's prices again. Money doesn't grow on trees. I don't have a fraction of the gold and silver I would have liked to have had. I had a few gold coins and I liquidated them to finance certain tours and work. I now have none. It's a very sore point with me, but if you can manage a few silver coins, do it. This is your last chance. Right, next item on the agenda, kill the Boer. I'm going to be brief about this. If you can't read the writing on the wall, it's because you can't read. It's not because the wall is too far away or the writing is scrawled too faintly, and that the builder of the wall is to blame rather than you, or that the writer on the wall is to blame rather than you. No, you and you alone are to blame. Beloved, beloved, beloved friend. It should be apparent now between expropriation without compensation, the Preservation and the Development of Land Act, the Equitable Access to Land Act, and the Kill the Boer, that there is a concerted and orchestrated something on the go in South Africa. To think that the Constitutional Court of South Africa, one of the most self-righteous entities, organs of state on the face of the earth, would allow that is just, it's not that it beggars belief, it's that it defies description. Let's leave it behind. We'll perhaps pay attention to it another time. I just got off the phone to a friend in Saudi Arabia. I'm not the best connected person in the world, but in my line of work, I'm bound to meet many interesting people. As many of you may know, I met the head of the largest military contractor of its sort. I'm not going to say whether it's McDonnell Douglas or Boeing or whoever. Some years ago, that has come up in conversation. I've met all, people from the Pentagon. I've met bigwigs in the European, but real bigwigs in the European Parliament and the Bundestag and so on and so forth. You meet these people along the way. I'm not, I didn't know it at the time, but one of the bigwigs of Freemasonry in the USA contact. I had no idea who he was. How was I supposed to know? Turned out years and years and years later who this guy was or is. Anyway, my point being that I'm going to tell you a story now which is quite extraordinary, but it's perhaps, you meet these people. We have a supporter in Saudi Arabia, friend of Suidlanders, who is a very extraordinary person. He is perhaps the greatest genius of oil that has ever lived. He has two major qualifications. I discovered this over time. He was making a point to me once, about 4 years ago. And he's a very humble man, painfully. No offense, sir, but you are painfully modest. And he will see this video. He follows Suidlanders. And he only told me this background story because it was pertinent to a point that he was trying to make. So I'll tell you. He has two qualifications in question for the purposes of this video. The one is held by only 4 men in the world. The other has only ever been held by 4 men. Ever. He is a guru. He explained to me once that he, by law, if he writes a report, it can't be contradicted by another expert. And I thought he was talking rubbish. And then he explained to me how the laws that govern stock exchanges work. They're common. The laws that govern, or the law, let's say the broad corpus of law that governs the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, is practically identical to that in Germany, Holland, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, Brazil. And they have to be, so that people understand under what circumstances they're investing money when they invest money overseas. You can't have some special law that there's got to be uniformity. Otherwise, cross-border investment in big companies, initiatives, projects, etc. wouldn't happen. Excuse me while I sip. And by law, his is the last voice in his field. It's an incredible man. He told me that he was invited to the palace. I'm getting a sort of a mild anxiety attack just thinking about this. The work he does for the senior most people in that country. He got invited to the palace. It's not an uncommon thing for him, but it was unexpected. He was sat down and informed that he had 24 hours to leave the country, that he could stay if he wished, but then it was on his own head because war is coming to the Middle East, and the advice was that he should leave at once. Apparently, it's only a handful, a very limited number of people who are receiving this advice, so as not to sow panic, etc., 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 but because of his stature, his place in the world, he received that privilege. And he said he has a very, very good working relationship with the king and with the Prince Regent, if you know anything about how that country is governed. He says he has good personal rapport with them, so they kind of as friends, as it were. And he left, he's leaving, he's about to leave. He'll be out this afternoon. Packed his stuff up, that's it. He'll be going back home to his home of origin, his place of origin. Now, what is the point of that? Ladies and gentlemen, Suidlanders, war is coming to the Middle East. Many of you will have seen that the USA has dispatched about 20% of its B-2 bomber fleet, those ones that look like UFOs, to the island of Diego Garcia, part of the Chagos Island group, north of Mauritius, in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It is understood that they've been sent there for the purposes of bombing Iran. If that happens, all hell will break loose. The world will be plunged into an abyss, the likes of which have never been seen. My friend, I'll call him a friend, says that they say it's not, could be, possibly, perhaps. It's a matter of certain fact they've been informed. It's happening. And that he should leave in 24 hours, which is not to say that it's going to transpire tonight or tomorrow. Excuse me. You will be aware by now that in Yemen there's a group that's dominated by the Houthi tribe and was founded by some brothers from the Houthi tribe that are colloquially known as the Houthis. Their correct name is Ansar Allah. They are Shia Muslims. Islam is broken up into more than just two major categories, but two persuasions dominate Islam so totally that for the purposes of a simple conversation between laymen such as you and me, we will talk about Sunni, it's the dominant, and Shia, much smaller, but centered on Iran, very powerful, mystical. And the Zaidi Shia of Yemen they make up the Houthis. They are funded and supported by Iran, and they've been smashing Israel in sympathy with the Gazans and the Lebanese and the Syrians. As you know, Israel invaded Syria with Turkey at the beginning of December last year, and the Assads were kicked out. The Houthis have been deploying some very advanced weaponry. They've managed to strike Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv repeatedly over time, and indeed repeatedly just last night, including with a hypersonic missile. Hypersonic, not supersonic. Those ones which only the Russians and Iranis and perhaps the Chinese possess. The Houthi attacks on US forces in the Red Sea have been so successful that the Harry S. Truman carrier strike group in the Red Sea has had to retreat. Apparently, the Harry S. Truman was not struck by any missile over the past few months that the Houthis have attempted to strike it, but it has come so close to being struck that it was time to leave. The USA is sending another carrier strike group to that region of the world, and at present, something like between a quarter and a third of all of the US Navy's assets are either in the northern Indian Ocean, the northwest Indian Ocean, or the eastern Mediterranean. Somebody is preparing for war. If it should happen that the USA, as the royal family of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia believes to be the case, if it should happen that the USA strikes Iran, immediately it will not be a case of what will oil cost. It will be a case of you cannot get fuel. Money won't make a difference. Yes, there is that school of thought that advertises the fact that the USA has a very much underdeveloped energy sector, and that it is now the world's largest producer of oil products. That is true, but it will not be able to fill the gap, and certainly not overnight. And somewhere between 20 and 30% of the world's gas, natural gas, and oil will be unable to leave through the Persian Gulf. it is my advice to you that we should all be stocking up on fuel without panicking, without becoming hysterical, just prudently, calmly, collectedly doing the right thing. Guys, I'm going to end with one other thing. My visit to Russia, I have never, ever received so much support unsolicited. Out of the blue, I've been receiving all of these messages encouraging me much more than when I usually tour, which is fine. They're gratefully received. It's not yet a done deal. There are a couple of things that I have to sort out. I have the finances. A Suidlander, thank you very much, sir, has put up the money. I have the money, but there are a couple of things to be ironed out. I am very perturbed about the dates. You know, if I go now, with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, yeah. What I want to address, though, is that some people have expressed concern about becoming a communist or something like that. I don't think that Vladimir Putin is a communist. If he is a communist, he's doing a very bad job of it. There's no doubt that he was once a KGB guy for the Communist Party, but I put it to you that there were, in those days, if you were an ice hockey player, you played ice hockey for the Soviets. There wasn't another option. There was the state. If you were going to be anything successful or special, I'm not saying that it's good. I'm saying that all of the cream that rose to the top during Soviet times was red in color, as it were. There was no other avenue for you. If you were going to be a spy, you were going to be a communist spy. If you were going to be a pole vaulter, you were going to be a communist pole vaulter. And they would check up on you. You couldn't play for the Soviet soccer team if you weren't politically correct, in their sense of the word politically correct. But let's say he is a communist. Gee, he's doing a bad job of it. The churches are doing better than they've ever done. The economy is becoming the mecca of capitalism. It's now the fourth largest economy in the world. And last year, the World Bank produced a report. You can find this on the internet. Verify what I'm saying. The Duran covered this. Fourth largest economy in the world. And the World Bank produced a report in which they said, we believe that we cannot see between 40 and 60% of the Russian economy. We believe that the number that we're presenting for the size of the Russian economy is about $6 trillion, is between 40 and 60% lower. But we can't tell you that it's higher because we can't produce the numbers to justify it. We can't say such and such a factory is producing X number of cars or whatever. So that's what we can identify. That's $6 trillion. But it's probably closer to, I think, I did the maths at the time, 9 trillion or something. If I was invited to Iran, I would go if Mr. Miller permitted me. It's not because I want to convert to Islam. It's because I want to hear. That's what you do. That's the nature of my job, is to hear what the others say. And you know, nobody ever said that I was a proponent of the breakup of the nuclear family and of divorce and of the traumatizing of children when I visited the USA when Donald Trump was in charge, a man who's been married 3 times and who notoriously had a very famous, you know, in among the 3, then also the Marla Maples. Remember Marla Maples? I don't think that Russia is a communist society anymore. That was, and in fact, who were Vladimir Putin's biggest opponents that he crushed in the early days? Remember how it happened? 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. 1991, was it Christmas Day? The Soviet Union collapsed. There was perestroika and glasnost and what have you, didn't work. Soviet Union collapses. Mikhail Gorbachev hangs around for a little bit. He gets booted out. Boris Yeltsin comes in. He hangs around. He's there for a while. 1999, New Year's Eve, the 31st of December, Boris Yeltsin resigned and he anointed Vladimir Putin his successor. Who was the pain in Vladimir Putin's neck for the period prior to that, when he was the deputy, and then when he was the head of the KGB or the FSB? Who was it? It was the Communist Party. So, yeah, I don't think that there's all that much to worry about. I suspect that that we're going to be okay. Let's see how it goes. Guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Again, my apologies that I wasn't able to write it out longhand and read it, but I don't think I'd have been able to focus my eyes on the words. We live in interesting times. God bless you and